This is a 24 TRD Tundra Pro, and not only is it already really expensive MSRP at $74,000, but this dealership still thinks they can get a $10,000 markup plus whatever this nonsense is. And currently I'm filming this in the second half of March. Seriously, who's paying these prices? And I see another Tundra Pro over here in the Terra color, which actually looks really good. And it's $79,000. Let's check out the sticker. MSRP on this one, same exact price, $74,000. The markup though, oh, it's only $7,500 this time, but you still have that other nonsense stuff. Who is paying 80 grand or more for a Toyota Tundra? Or this Tacoma, which I used to own a couple Toyota Tacomas and I really like them. And if you want one of the last V6 2023s, because now the new generation, the 4th gen for 2024 is all the turbo 4 cylinders, you can't find a bone stock one. You're gonna have to pay a bunch of options. This is already really expensive MSRP at $46,000. But then what's worse is you have $5,000 worth of options, like the basic hockey puck lift equivalent, oversized tires, basic TRD wheels, and then this running board, which lowers your ground clearance. I don't think that's worth it. Plus the dealership likely sells your factory wheels and tires, which you actually paid for on your MSRP. In between the different lots that this dealership has, there's really no shortage of inventory. There's a lot of used vehicles, and there's still quite a few new vehicles. Lots of foreigners over here, so we'll check those out next. But before I show you guys specific examples, my purpose in making this video is really to share awareness as well as what inventory and pricing looks like close-ish to where I live. I've been to this dealership a couple other times, usually about once a month or so I make it into town, and it's absolutely insane what these people are expecting. For example, this foreigner, it's an SR5, but they made it to look just like the Pro, even including the Pro roof rack, TRD wheels, and they want $53,500 for an SR5 Foreigner, which is probably the most old school vehicle you can get. It's not overly safe, it's not overly efficient, it is magnificent and really good as an all-around vehicle. But that's absurd for an SR5, which is the absolute lowest trim level of the Foreigner. And meanwhile, over half of Americans, even those making 6 figures household income, are living paycheck to paycheck. So the last thing you guys need to worry about is paying upfront overpriced for a brand new vehicle if that's what you're into, if that's what your splurge is, or if you're forced to finance one just because of the situation that a lot of people are in. These prices are absolutely absurd. This is actually kind of cool. This is the new underground color for 2024 for Tacomas and Foreigners, but it's still $48,000. And this is a TRD off-road, which starts around $43,000 MSRP. And you're still gonna pay $1,000 for whatever Silverado is, and theft deterrent another $300. It's just pretty ridiculous how expensive vehicles are. So when I title my videos something along the lines of the car or the truck market is collapsing and buyers are done overpaying, I don't mean that prices are plummeting, because that hasn't happened yet, at least not in my area. But check it out, there are so many used 2021, 23, 22, 21, basically brand new vehicles. People can't make the payments. Most people can't pay for a vehicle in full, which is what I recommend you do if you're in the position to, or buy what you can pay in cash. But most people do finance their vehicles. And then what happens? 1 year later, are they having to return it because it's a $55,000 hybrid, overly fancy, leather interior minivan? Like, come on, like, who is buying these expensive vehicles? And although this might seem so far like I'm blaming the dealership, which, if you do charge MSRP or above, shame on you. There's so much room to drop your prices. Most vehicles only cost about 2/3 of their MSRP to make, so the manufacturer can make money and the dealership can make money, even offering you thousands below MSRP. But more so than dealership shaming, because that's only applicable to the dealerships that do have bad business practices and try to scam you out of every dollar they can somehow trick you with Silverado, whatever that is. And guys, please comment below if you know what that is, because I have no clue. But it's actually absurd that the manufacturers these days are only wanting to produce high trim level, expensive vehicles that have leather seats, all the bells and whistles, and thinking that that's what the average American wants or can afford, which it absolutely isn't. They're just out of touch with their buyers. And even these Toyotas, which historically Toyota is one of the best vehicle you can buy, but a RAV4 hybrid, $36,000. MSRP 37. So I guess there are a few discounts off of MSRP, but then you still have to pay for the nonsense package, $1,300, that you don't have a choice in the matter in. So honestly, if you're gonna buy this one from this dealership, I would see if they'll come down off of that price. Otherwise, shop around, because there are other dealerships that don't tack on nonsense and, you know, give you a couple grand off. Even about 120 miles away, I can find a different Toyota RAV4 that has a few $1,000 discount. But I just want you guys to ultimately do what's best for you. If you're in a pinch or if you need to buy a used vehicle or a new vehicle to you right now, I would consider buying used, but I would do it private party. Not just because on average you save about $2,500 that way, but you actually get to meet and talk to the owner. You get the service records, you get to hear how their ownership experience has been, and you can kind of read the person and decide for yourself how well you think it was taken care of. Because once they're cleaned up at the dealership, you really don't know how well they were serviced, how well they were taken care of or loved. And what other things in life do you spend over $10,000 on and not have the service record or not know how well it was taken care of or treated, especially when you're going to buy something that's used and not brand new, that has all of its warranty. And when you do have to finance something, when you do buy a used thing, you might be paying up to about twice as much interest as the brand new vehicle. So even though it's maybe $20,000 less than the average new equivalent at upper 20s versus upper 40s, your interest rate being 5 or 6% higher is really going to add a lot more debt to the actual ownership cost of that vehicle if you can't pay it off early. I'm at a Ford dealership now, and I really want to show you guys this used C8 and just see how much they're asking at the Ford dealership. But this is an accessory lot, and as you can see, it's completely empty. So they could fit a lot more inventory here, although there are a few other lots over there that have more cars, but still very empty. So it's interesting how different towns, different dealerships, some of them are completely packed, like the last one you just saw, but this one has so much available space. So I wonder why they're selling so many cars. Either they're having supply chain issues and they're not getting a lot allocated to them, or maybe their discounts are better, and I guess we'll see in just a minute. But let's see how much this Corvette C8, it's a 2020. So when these were brand new in 2020 for this 8th generation, they cost $59,000 MSRP starting out. And of course, there's nothing on this VIN, just some random guy's name and number. 4,800 miles, so why did they barely drive it? I guess that's pretty typical where the average Corvette owner up until this generation was about 58. So if I can find the specs or any information online, I'll overlay that on the screen here. And now at this other lot, there really isn't a whole lot going on. There's not many things I find interesting, but there is a Ford Lightning way up ahead. So I'm gonna show you what that sticker's for because I am genuinely curious. But I do want to mention, if you're new to my channel, I used to own a supercharged FJ Cruiser, and I did buy 2 Toyota Tacomas brand new. So I used to really like Japanese Toyota trucks. But then, a while ago, I switched to the other Japanese competitors. Companies like Nissan, like Subaru, like Mazda, they also offer very good products and a lot cheaper than Toyotas are. Toyota used to be known for reliability and having a lot of cloth seats, with only maybe the limited trim levels having leather and a few upgraded features, but still not being overly expensive as long as it wasn't something like a Land Cruiser. But these days, it seems like a higher percent of the vehicles that the manufacturers are pumping out are the more expensive ones that the average person just can't afford. But this Lightning, $65,000, okay, that's almost fairly reasonable, but you have the nonsense. $250 for these door guards, which I don't think is worth more than maybe $3, but that's my opinion. Spray and bed liner. This one actually does have a spray and bed liner, so kudos for them for putting the sticker up and having the bed liner present. I say that because I've seen other Ford trucks at dealerships that have the sticker for a bed liner but don't actually show that it's present, and even coming back weeks and weeks later and it's still not there. But this one, this Power Boost, so that's the hybrid, $62,000, still has the same options. And it's showing that you can get 1.9% financing, so if you have to finance it, that's actually a pretty good deal. But keep in mind, $62,000 is actually more net money than the average household income in America takes home every year. So is this truck worth more than a family's worth of the parents' earning income? That's hard to say. And then at 72 months, which 72-month and 84-month loans seem to be what people justify to buy these overpriced trucks, because if the manufacturer can offer longer terms, the payments are lower. So then maybe the payments on an 84-month or 72-month loan is what 3, 4, or 5 years used to be when trucks and their value are actually equal. It's absurd that you're probably going to be paying over $700 a month, even at almost no interest, for 6 years. So in 5.5 years from now, if you don't pay this thing off early, or if you're in a situation where you can't, you're still going to be paying, half of a mortgage for a Decision, a basic Ford truck that you bought 6 years ago, which I think is sad. And you really need to look to the future when you're buying a brand new vehicle, especially if you're going to finance it. Hence why I've seen so many 1, 2, 3-year-old used vehicles return to the dealerships. Or here is a Lincoln Navigator, which I saw a bunch of these in Vegas with markups costing 6 figures, which is absolutely absurd, especially when this is just a fancy Ford. And oh my gosh, $111,000 for this one. Thankfully, it doesn't have the add-on, the door guard, and especially not the bed liner, but still over $110,000 for this one. And they can't even go through the effort of putting in your financing or your discount, which I would assume you should be able to get at least $10,000 to $20,000 off of this one. Because again, if this only costs 2/3 of that to make, there's a lot of profit that the manufacturer and the dealership are gonna splurge on if they ever get this one sold. But there's a Ford Expedition right here, so this is the equivalent. Of course, without going into the details, we don't know spec for spec, but this one, holy cow, $86,000 for a Ford Expedition with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost. And here, there's actually two more. I'll show you this one as well. Doesn't even look that fancy on the front end. And $76,000. That is a lot of money for a Ford SUV that in 10 years is going to be worth probably $10,000. Now, I know not everyone is a Tesla fan or favors Elon Musk as a CEO, but there's a lot of things that we could learn from Tesla and a lot of what these other manufacturers could learn as well. For instance, making things in-house, not relying on third-party companies to make all of your parts. So then you have all these delays and all these markups and all this nonsense and shortages and things like that. For instance, the Teslas, they have only come down on price, which I know that really hurts a lot of the early adopters and people who wanted to be first to owning one. For example, my brother has a Model Y Performance. He was one of the very first people to buy one of those, and it seemed like a fair price at low $60,000 when he bought his, especially when he got the white seats and the tow hitch and things like that. But now you can find the same one brand new 3 years later, and it's in the mid 40s after the tax credit. So the Tesla in 3 years has dropped about $17,000, $18,000 brand new, whereas all of these other vehicles since COVID, since the last few years, they've only gone up in price about that much. It's honestly substantially insane how different pricing can be between manufacturers, and why, if vehicles are going to be thrown away, if they're not going to be made like they used to with all these electronics, all these wires and things that can fail and things you need to track down, why, if vehicles are just going to be an appliance, maybe we should all go Tesla. All right, guys, and I saved the best for last. We're going to wrap this video up at a Subaru dealership, and one that I can hopefully give you guys some hope in that there are good dealerships out there. For example, every single vehicle here shows how much it is under MSRP. Nothing here is at or above MSRP. And when applicable, when they can show you the approved financing rate, 1.9%, they're going to include that as well, just to make it as transparent as possible, while giving you guys plenty of room to drive through and look at all these vehicles. This Outback Wilderness, for instance, that's actually what I daily drive, is one of these. And this one, yeah, about $1,500 off of MSRP and 2% financing. It's not this or that. For which deal are you going to get? Are you going to get the low financing, or are you going to get the discount off of MSRP? But all of these vehicles are very capable, very practical, especially if you're in the Pacific Northwest like I am today. And they're under the average new vehicle, and some of them are even closer to what the average used vehicle is. Similar to those other Japanese brands, like I said, Mazda has a lot of really good value vehicles, while being very reliable, in some cases pretty powerful with their different turbo engines, having a true 6-speed automatic, and not any more frills and bells and whistles than what are necessary. So you can find good deals out there. And even a lot of their used vehicles actually seem like a reasonable price, especially by today's standard. For instance, this 5-year-old Kia van, $13,000. Quite a bit different than the $55,000 that the Toyota Sienna was. Although I know this is not the same class of vehicle, it's a little bit older and it's just not comparable. It's still 1/3 of the price. And this is absolutely perfect. This is a 10-year-old Ford Expedition with leather seats. And it is basically $13,000, and it's an XLT, which is actually a little bit higher trim level. It does have a few extra goodies you're gonna get, but that is literally basically what I said that the $86,000 Expedition would be worth in 10 years. So is this worth a $70,000 drop in price after 10 years, or $7.3 thousand a year? Which is $600 a month. That's insane. Anyways, guys, if I haven't made it perfectly abundantly clear thus far, I'm not trying to get after dealerships, especially the good ones, because as you can see here, this is a really good one. But I just visited a couple that were not so good, especially the first one. 10 grand on a TRD Tundra? Who the freak is gonna pay over 80 grand for a Tundra Pro? Tundras do not sell anything like the American trucks, which all sell over several hundred thousand up to almost $1 million a year for fleet use with F-150s, because they're not used for work the same way that American trucks are. They're cool. They are top safety pick plus. They have a roll down window and they're twin turboed, so Toyota is making basically an EcoBoost engine reliable. But it's absurd. No one is paying 80 grand, or no one should be, for a Toyota Tundra. It is going to hold its value better than a lot of other vehicles, but that's not something that the average person can afford. And a truck like that is not actually going to be used for off-road use. It has horrendous breakover angles, approach and departure angles, because at the end of the day, it's a full-size truck, and most full-size trucks are not actually good for off-roading. And then mid-size trucks these days cost mid-$40,000 to mid-$50,000, whereas both of the Tacomas I bought were under $30,000. So it's just crazy to me how expensive vehicles have gone, and I think a lot of that is due to everyone's trying to make a buck. The loan companies with their high interest, they're trying to make some money. The manufacturers are really trying to make some money, and because they pay CEOs too much and they don't come up with better methods of cost reduction without compromising quality assurance and things like that, it's absurd. And then a lot of dealerships don't want to give you a deal. They think that, oh, we don't need to sell it to you for a discount because someone else is going to come and buy our vehicle. That's an attitude that Toyota had for a long time. And as much as I love Toyota, as much as I enjoyed my 100,000 miles driving their trucks, I don't in the foreseeable future buying another one. Not because they aren't still a good product, but because I don't see the value being there like it used to be. So now as I wrap up this video, you guys can see, if you shop around, if you go to other towns to find the good dealerships, which are the ones you should be supporting anyways, you can find pretty good deals on brand new vehicles that are way less than the average new car. In cases like this 24 Impreza with a warranty, it's barely more than the average used car. Or this one with a few less frills and options, it is literally less than the average new car while having about a third of the interest rate of an average new car. So you really can find good deals, but you might have to leave some of the big manufacturers behind and look at some of the other ones like Mazda, like Subaru, and some of the ones that haven't just gone ahead of themselves on remembering who their population and their customer basis is. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big like. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. I'm really curious to hear what things are like in your area, what prices are, what financing rates are, and how willing dealerships are to work with you. And anyways, if you haven't already, consider subscribing if you want to watch more. I post a couple times a week. I usually do a video like this about once to twice a month. Most of my other stuff is car reviews and 0 to 60s and whatever I think is fun. But until next time, guys, I wish you the best. I hope you don't overpay for a vehicle, especially when that's going to depreciate $73,000. And until next time, take care.